Welcome to Martha Family Secrets. My own mother sat across from me in a courtroom trying to legally strip away my right to manage my own life. She had abandoned me when I was 7 years old, disappeared for 15 years without a single phone call, not one birthday card, not one word. And now she was back. Not to apologize. Not to reconnect. But to stand in front of a judge and tell him that I was too mentally unstable to handle my own bank account, my own car, or the apartment I had paid for with my own money. Her lawyer sat there smiling like the verdict was already written. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. My name is Nora Cassidy. I am 28 years old. And this is the story of how my mother tried to take everything I had ever built, and how she lost everything instead. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you are listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Now let me take you back to where this all began. To a Tuesday morning that started like every other Tuesday morning, until it did not. It is a Tuesday in March and I am standing at my kitchen counter pouring coffee into a thermos when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Virginia area code but not local. I almost let it ring out. I get spam calls twice a week. But something I still cannot explain to this day makes me pick up. Hi baby. It is Mom. The thermos slips. Coffee pools across the counter. I do not move to wipe it up. I do not move at all. The last time I heard that voice I was 7 years old, standing on my grandmother's porch in bare feet, watching a blue sedan pull out of the driveway. She did not wave. She did not look back. She just left. And for 21 years, that was the last thing my mother ever gave me. A view of her tail lights. Now she is on the phone and her voice is shaking. She is saying things like, I know I do not deserve this and I just want to see you and I have changed, Nora. I promise. And the worst part is that for one single second, one split second that I am ashamed of, something in me wanted to believe her. I do not say a word. Not because I am being strong. Because my throat has closed shut completely. She fills the silence. She tells me she is living 2 hours south now. She tells me she has remarried. She tells me she wants to make things right. She says it 4 times. I hang up without answering. My hands are trembling, not from sadness, but from something much closer to alarm. Like a smoke detector going off in a room you thought was completely empty. I set the phone down, wipe the counter, pick up the thermos. Then my laptop pings. An automated email from my bank. Credit alert. Significant change detected on your account. My score has dropped 90 points overnight. I stare at the screen. Then I stare at my phone. 2 events. Same morning. And I do not believe in coincidences. Let me back up so you understand the full picture of what I was walking into. I grew up in a small house on Clover Ridge Road, about 40 minutes outside of Richmond. It belonged to my grandmother, Margaret Cassidy, the woman who raised me after my mother walked out. My mother's name before she remarried was Donna Beckett. She left on a Thursday. I remember because Grandma Margaret had just made pot roast, which she only made on Thursdays. I was sitting at the kitchen table drawing horses when the front door opened and closed. And when I looked up, my mother was carrying a suitcase to a car I had never seen, driven by a man I had never met. Grandma Margaret did not chase her. She just picked me up, set me on her hip, and said, "You are staying with me now, baby." And that was not a bad thing. She was right. Margaret Cassidy worked 30 years as a bookkeeper for the county clerk's office. She was not rich, but she was steady in a way that I have never seen matched by anyone since. She kept every receipt. Filed every tax return on time. Taught me that money was something you respected, not something you chased. I earned a scholarship to the university, graduated with a degree in finance, got a job as a financial analyst at a mid-size firm, bought a used car with my own savings, and started paying down a 1-bedroom apartment on a 15-year mortgage. Then 2 years ago, Grandma Margaret passed. Pancreatic cancer. Fast and cruel. She left me the house on Clover Ridge, her savings account, about $120,000, and a filing cabinet in the hallway closet that held everything. My birth certificate, my social security card, old insurance forms, school records. Margaret kept everything in one place. She trusted the world more than it deserved, and someone knew exactly where that cabinet was. That evening I sat at my desk and pulled my full credit report. What I found made my stomach drop completely out of my body. My score, which I had carefully built to 780 over 6 years, was sitting at 520. There were 4 credit cards I had never opened. A department store card from a state I had never visited. A small personal loan taken out 3 years ago. Total outstanding debt: $43,000. Some of these accounts went back a decade. One card had been opened when I was 18, the year I started college. I have never owned a credit card that was not issued through my own bank. I called the credit bureau. The woman on the line walked me through the dispute process but warned me it could take months. Each account had to be investigated individually. She said you will need to file with all 3 bureaus. Months. $43,000 in my name, and the best anyone could offer was months. The next morning at work I told my coworker Priya Alden. Priya is a CPA 2 cubicles down and the closest thing I have to a best friend. She listens without interrupting, which is how I always know something is serious. Priya only goes quiet when she is calculating. When I finished, she did not say I am sorry. She did not say that is terrible. She said 4 cards over 10 years. This is not a data breach, Nora. Someone has your social security number. Someone who has had it for a long time. She looked at me across her desk. Who had access to your social security number when you were a kid? I opened my mouth. Closed it. And thought about the filing cabinet in Grandma Margaret's hallway closet. The one that held everything. The one in the house where my mother grew up. The house my mother knew better than anyone alive. 3 days later, Donna showed up at my office. I was at my desk reviewing a quarterly report when the receptionist called my extension. There is a woman in the lobby, she said. Says she is your mother. I walked out and there she was. Standing by the front desk in a pressed blouse and pearl earrings, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. She looked older. Thinner. Carefully put together. The kind of woman you would feel sorry for at first glance. The second she saw me, she crossed the lobby and wrapped her arms around me. Oh, Nora, my baby. Her voice cracked just loud enough for the receptionist and 2 passing coworkers to hear clearly. I did not hug her back. I stood still and waited for her to let go. She pulled a chair closer and started talking. She had changed. She was sorry. She had found God, found stability, found a good man. His name was Richard. He was waiting in the car. She also had a daughter. Sophia, 22. Your sister, Nora. You have a sister. I nodded. I said very little. Then the questions started. Small ones at first. Where did I live? What kind of car did I drive? Then larger. Did Grandma Margaret leave you anything? The house. Savings. I watched her face as she asked. Her eyes flicked to my badge, my desk through the glass door, my shoes. She was inventorying me. Taking stock. I heard about the house from a cousin, she said when I did not answer. I just want to know you are taken care of. I stood up. I need to get back to work, Donna. She blinked at the name. Not Mom. Donna. I came to your office, she said softly. Does that not mean something? It means you wanted witnesses, I said. Next time, call first. That weekend I drove to Grandma Margaret's house on Clover Ridge. The spare key was still under the 3rd flower pot. The house smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, the ghost of Margaret's Saturday routine. I went straight to the hallway closet and opened the filing cabinet. Something was off immediately. The folders were slightly out of order. Margaret filed everything alphabetically by category. Banking, insurance, medical, tax. Now insurance was behind tax. Small thing. But Margaret Cassidy never misfiled anything in her entire life. I pulled the envelope labeled Social Security. Opened, not torn. Carefully slid along the top and folded back. The card was still inside, but someone had handled it recently. I sat down on the hallway floor and called my cousin Paula. 3 months ago, I said, you mentioned a woman came by asking about the house. What exactly did she say? Paula told me a woman named Donna had shown up at her door, introduced herself as Margaret's daughter, and asked whether the house had been sold yet. Paula had not thought much of it. She seemed nice. Said she missed her mama. After I hung up, Priya and I ran a deeper trace on the fraudulent credit cards. The billing addresses rotated between 3 locations. All towns where Donna had lived over the past decade. 1 P.O. box in Southern Virginia. 1 apartment in North Carolina. 1 address in Tennessee that I would later learn belonged to Richard. Then I found something else. At the bottom of the filing cabinet in a folder Margaret had labeled personal, there was a letter. 8 years old. Donna's handwriting, which I recognized from birthday cards she had sent until I was 5. It said, Mama, I need $5,000. Please. I am desperate. Margaret had never told me about that letter. And she had never sent the money. The certified envelope arrived on a Monday. I signed for it at my mailbox thinking it was related to my credit dispute. It was not. It was from the county court. Inside was a formal petition for guardianship filed by Donna Marsh, previously Beckett, requesting that she be appointed legal guardian over me, Nora Cassidy, age 28, on the grounds that I lacked the mental and cognitive capacity to manage personal financial affairs due to psychological instability following a significant bereavement. I read it twice. Then a third time. Attached was a psychiatric evaluation signed by a Dr. Raymond Poole stating that I exhibited signs of emotional fragility, impaired judgment, and inability to make sound financial decisions. I had never met Dr. Raymond Poole. I had never been evaluated by any psychiatrist in my life. The petitioner's legal representative was listed as Gregory Marsh, Esquire, Donna's husband. And the relief requested was comprehensive. Full control of my bank accounts. Management of my inherited property. Authority over my vehicle title. Oversight of all financial decisions. Everything. She wanted everything. I called Lawrence Briggs. He was a family law attorney who had practiced in Richmond for 30 years. More importantly, he had been Grandma Margaret's friend. They had gone to the same church for 20 years. He had handled her will personally. Lawrence listened to me read the petition over the phone. When I finished, there was a pause. The kind that means a calm man is choosing his words extremely carefully. Nora, he said, this is not a guardianship case. This is a financial takeover dressed in legal language. He told me the hearing was set for 6 weeks out. He told me we needed hard evidence. And then he said something that made the hair on my arms stand straight up. Do not let Donna know you are preparing. Not a single word. Now here is what you need to understand before we go any further, because what came next in those 6 weeks is something I have never spoken about in this much detail before. What Donna was doing behind the scenes while I stayed silent, the phone calls she was making, the people she was contacting, and what Lawrence found when he started pulling on the threads of that psychiatric evaluation, it is going to make your jaw drop completely. Stay with me. Sophia reached out on social media. Her profile was all selfies and motivational quotes, the kind of account that looks carefully curated to seem completely harmless. Her message was simple. Hi Nora. I know this is weird, but I would love to meet my big sister. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near campus. She was 22, blonde, bright-eyed, wearing a sundress and a nervous smile. She ordered an iced latte and immediately started talking about how difficult Donna could be. Mom is intense, she said, rolling her eyes like we were already bonding over something shared. Trust me, I get it. Then casually, the questions shifted. How are you holding up since your grandma passed? Do you feel like you are managing okay, financially? I mean, have you thought about getting some professional help? No judgment. Each question landed with surgical precision. She was not making conversation. She was building a case, brick by brick. I kept my answers flat. I am fine. Work is good. I manage. When Sophia excused herself to the restroom, her phone vibrated on the table. The screen lit up. I did not touch it. I did not need to. The notification was right there in plain sight. Mom. Did she say anything about the apartment? I looked at that message for 3 seconds. Then I looked away. When Sophia came back, she was smiling again. This was really nice, Nora. We should do it again. Definitely, I said. I smiled back. I finished my coffee. Outside, I sat in my car for 5 full minutes before starting the engine. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. She had not come to meet her sister. She had come on assignment. And now I knew exactly what this family was doing and how far they were willing to go. Lawrence Briggs's office was on the 2nd floor of a converted Victorian building on Main Street. Bookshelves floor to ceiling. A brass desk lamp. A framed photo of him and Grandma Margaret at a church fundraiser, both of them laughing at something just out of frame. Priya, Lawrence, and I sat around his conference table. Priya opened her laptop and turned it toward us. Here is what I found, she said. 11 credit cards. 3 personal loans. Total debt, $87,000. Every account opened using Nora's social security number. Every billing address links to a location where Donna Marsh has lived in the past 12 years. Lawrence wrote on a yellow legal pad, saying nothing. Priya continued. She was careful. Minimum payments on most accounts. Just enough to keep them active without triggering fraud alerts. The oldest card was opened when Nora was 14. 14. I was in 9th grade learning algebra and my mother was across the state spending money under my name. The room went completely quiet for a moment. Even Priya, who never stops moving, went still. Lawrence set down his pen. Here is the strategy. We do not tip our hand before the hearing. We let Donna present her petition first. The grieving mother, the concerned parent. Then we respond. Not just to refute the guardianship, but to show the court who is really unfit to manage finances. He slid a form across the table. This is an FTC identity theft report. You will file this today. We also file with local police. That gets us an official case number. I signed. Priya printed the credit timeline in full. Lawrence slid it into a manila folder. One more thing, Lawrence said. The psychiatrist who signed Donna's evaluation. Dr. Raymond Poole. I am going to check his license carefully. He looked at me over his glasses. If that evaluation is fraudulent, this is not just a bad petition. It is a crime. That night, Donna posted a photo of me on social media. I was 5 years old, sitting on a tricycle. The caption read, I am fighting every day to protect my baby girl. A mother never stops loving. 300 comments. All sympathy. All for her. Not one person questioning a single word. I need to pause here for a second because I know exactly what some of you are thinking. Why did you not just block her and walk away? Believe me, I asked myself that every single day for those 6 weeks. But when someone files a legal petition against you, you cannot ignore it. If you do not show up, the court rules by default and she wins. So let me ask you something genuinely. If the mother who abandoned you 21 years ago came back with a lawsuit trying to take control of everything you owned, what would you actually do? Drop your answer in the comments. I mean it. I read every single one. All right. Back to the story. Over the next 2 weeks, Donna launched a full campaign. The social media posts continued. Old photos of me as a toddler. Long captions about a mother's heartbreak. Praying Thea gets the help she needs. Each post was shared by people I had never met, people who seemed to have appeared overnight as Donna's support network. Then the calls started. My second cousin Paula phoned on a Thursday. "Honey, your mama is just torn apart," she said. "She says you will not let her help. Why will you not talk to her?" I tried to explain. Paula cut me off. "She is your mother, Nora. You only get one." 2 days later my landlord called. He sounded uncomfortable. "Ms. Cassidy, I got a call from a woman who says she is your mother. She asked if you had been paying rent on time. She said you were having mental health issues." I felt the floor tilt slightly under my feet. She had called my landlord. "I have never missed a single payment," I told him. He said he knew, but the discomfort in his voice told me the seed had already been planted. At work it got worse. I overheard 2 coworkers whispering near the break room. Something about a family court case. When I walked in, they went quiet, but one of them smiled too hard and asked if I wanted coffee. Donna was calling people in my life. My relatives. My landlord. Probably my neighbors. Telling all of them that I was unstable. She was not just filing legal paperwork. She was constructing a narrative from the outside in. Making sure that by the time we walked into that courtroom, everyone already believed her version of events. Anne Lawrence had told me I could not respond publicly. Anything you say online or to family can be twisted and used against you at the hearing. So I stayed silent. And I watched my mother rewrite my life in real time. Lawrence called me on a Wednesday evening. His voice was measured, but I could hear the edge underneath. "I found something on Dr. Poole," he said. Dr. Raymond Poole. The psychiatrist who had signed the evaluation claiming I was mentally unfit. His medical license had been revoked 2 years ago by the State Board of Medicine. The reason? Providing fabricated psychological evaluations for use in legal proceedings. 3 separate complaints from 3 separate attorneys. He had been caught, sanctioned, and stripped of his credentials. He cannot legally practice, Lawrence said. He cannot sign medical documents. That evaluation Donna submitted to the court is completely worthless on its face. I sat on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, and let that sink in. Donna had not just found a questionable doctor. She had found a disgraced one. Someone willing to write whatever she needed for a fee. How did she find him? I asked. That is the interesting part, Lawrence said. Richard Marsh used Poole as an expert witness in a property dispute 4 years ago, before the license was revoked. They have a history together. Richard, the lawyer husband, the man who had drafted the guardianship petition, had selected the fake evaluator and sat in the courtroom like everything was completely above board. This was not Donna acting alone. This had been planned. Richard provided the legal architecture. Donna provided the performance. And they had shopped for a doctor willing to rubber stamp whatever story they needed. Lawrence, I said, if they faked the evaluation, what else did they fake? He was quiet for a beat. That is exactly the question I am going to answer. Now, a week before the hearing, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. Handwritten in a script I recognized before I even finished unfolding the first page. 4 pages front and back. In Donna's looping cursive she wrote about the agony of being separated from her firstborn. She wrote about sleepless nights wondering if I was safe. She described a version of our shared history where she had been forced to leave by circumstances beyond her control. Where Grandma Margaret had refused to let her see me. She was blaming a dead woman. A woman who could not defend herself from the grave. Tucked into the fold was a photograph. Me at age 4 sitting on a stool in our old kitchen, grinning wide at the camera. I recognized it immediately. It was from Grandma Margaret's album. The same album that had sat on the shelf in the Clover Ridge house for as long as I could remember. Donna must have taken it when she went through the filing cabinet that first time. And then I got to the last paragraph. The handwriting tightened. The tone shifted entirely. If you fight me in court, everyone will know you rejected your own mother. Is that the kind of person you want to be, Nora? Think carefully. I read that line 3 times. It was not a plea. It was a threat wrapped in the language of love. She had signed it. Love, Mom. She underlined the word love twice, as if pressing the pen harder could somehow make it true. I scanned every page, front and back. Then I emailed the scans to Lawrence with one line. For the file. Because here is what Donna did not understand about me. I am a financial analyst. My entire job is reading documents, catching inconsistencies, and following numbers to wherever they lead. She had written me a 4-page letter full of raw emotion. And all I could see was evidence. Now I need you to stay with me right through to the hearing, because what Lawrence laid out on that conference table 4 days before we walked into court is something that I still get emotional thinking about. Every folder. Every document. Every number. Everything Priya had built and everything Lawrence had uncovered. And the moment in that courtroom when Donna realized for the very first time that her plan had not just failed but had been turned completely inside out. That moment is coming. Do not go anywhere. I drove to Clover Ridge on a Saturday to collect the last documents Lawrence needed. When I turned the corner onto the street, my chest tightened. Donna's silver SUV was parked in the driveway. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and found Donna in the living room, running her hand along the fireplace mantel like she was quietly appraising it. Richard stood by the window, arms crossed, wearing a sport coat in my grandmother's house like it was an open showing at a real estate office. What are you doing here? I said. Donna turned. This is where I grew up, Nora. I have every right to be here. Your name is not on the deed. Mine is. Richard stepped forward and held out a document. Single page, printed on legal-size paper. Sign this, he said. Voluntary guardianship agreement. You will not have to go to court. We handle everything quietly. I looked at the paper. I did not touch it. No. Richard tilted his head. Courts do not look kindly on young women who refuse their family's help. Donna started crying on cue, like a faucet turning. Why are you making this so hard? I am trying to protect you. Protect me from what? My own bank account? I pulled out my phone. I am calling the non-emergency line. You can wait for them or you can leave. Richard put his hand on Donna's arm. Let us go. We will see her in court. They walked out. Donna paused at the door and looked back at me with wet eyes and a tight mouth. The expression of someone who had expected this to be easy and had just realized in that moment that it would not be. After they left, I checked the filing cabinet. 2 folders were thinner than before. My second birth certificate copy was missing. I locked the door, changed the code on the keypad, and called Lawrence. Priya worked through the entire weekend. By Monday, she walked into my cubicle and set a printed spreadsheet on my desk. 11 rows. Color-coded. Annotated. The full timeline. Here it is, she said. Every fraudulent account. Date opened. Credit limit. Balance. Billing address. And where Donna was living at the time of each application. I scanned the columns. The first card had been opened when I was 14. A retail store card with a $500 limit, sent to a P.O. box. The most recent had been opened 6 months ago. A Visa with a $12,000 limit, mailed to a rental unit in Richard's name. Some of the applications were submitted online, Priya said. I was able to cross-reference IP addresses on 3 of them. All from regions where Donna was residing at the time. She tapped one row highlighted in red. This one was opened 3 weeks after your grandmother's funeral. I stared at the date. 3 weeks. Margaret Cassidy was barely in the ground. The flowers on her grave had not even wilted yet. And Donna was already opening a new line of credit under my name. She paid the minimums, Priya continued. Just enough to keep the accounts alive and the fraud alerts quiet. She knew exactly what she was doing. For over a decade. $87,000. Not all at once. Dripped out over years, across states, through dozens of small charges designed never to trigger a red flag. Priya looked at me. This is not impulsive, Nora. This is a system. I nodded. I took the spreadsheet, slid it into the manila folder with everything else. The FTC report, the police case number, the pool research, the scanned letter. One more thing, Priya said. That card she opened after the funeral. She maxed it out in 8 weeks. Cash advances. Every single one. The week before the hearing, I felt the walls close in from every direction at once. My cousin Paula sent a group text to half the family. Please pray for Nora. She is going through a hard time and her mama just wants to help. I was included in the thread. I did not respond. At church, Margaret's church, a woman I had known since I was 12 pulled me aside after the service. Donna came by last Sunday, she whispered. Cried the whole time. She says you are shutting her out. She squeezed my hand like I was the one who needed correcting. At work the whispers sharpened. I caught fragments in the break room. Family court. Her mom filed something. Is she okay? On Wednesday my supervisor Tom called me into his office and closed the door. Nora, this is not a disciplinary conversation. I just want to check in. Is everything all right at home? I knew immediately. Donna had called the office, or someone she had spoken to had. I am fine, Tom. I am dealing with a family legal matter. It does not affect my work. He nodded, but then added, maybe take a few days. Clear your head. He was not firing me. He was not even being unkind. But the suggestion stung like a slap because it meant Donna's story had reached every single corner of my life. My family. My church. My workplace. She was not just attacking me in court. She was making sure that by the time we walked through those courthouse doors, the entire world around me had already shifted in her direction. I drove home that night in complete silence. No radio. No calls. I pulled into my parking spot and sat with the engine off. Lawrence had told me not to say anything. So I did not. But the silence was starting to cost me in ways that were hard to measure. 4 days before the hearing, I sat in Lawrence's office and watched him lay everything out on the conference table like a surgeon carefully prepping instruments for an operation. Folder 1. A psychiatric evaluation of me. A real one, conducted by Dr. Sarah Wentworth, a board-certified psychiatrist with a fully active state license. She had spent 90 minutes with me. Her conclusion. No cognitive impairment. No psychological instability. No evidence of diminished capacity of any kind. In her professional assessment, I was fully competent in every measurable way. Folder 2. My employment records, tax returns, and payment history. 6 years of on-time rent. A mortgage in good standing. Performance reviews that used words like thorough, reliable, exemplary. Folder 3. Dr. Raymond Poole's disciplinary record. License revoked. Board complaint summaries. His documented connection to Richard Marsh. Folder 4. Priya's complete identity theft timeline. 11 cards. 3 loans. $87,000. Addresses. Dates. IP cross-references laid out in clean columns. Folder 5. The FTC Identity Theft Report. The police case number. Official Credit Bureau confirmations. Lawrence squared the edges of the stack and looked at me. We do not go in swinging. We let them build their case. Then we lay this on the table and let the judge draw her own conclusions. He paused. Nora, I also subpoenaed Donna's personal financial records. If she used your social security number to borrow money, it will appear in her own file. I nodded. One more thing, he said. We are not just trying to defeat the petition. We are going to give the court grounds to refer this for criminal prosecution. He held my gaze. Your grandmother asked me to look after you if anything ever happened to her. I gave her my word. I signed the last document. The ink was steady. In 4 days, I would walk into that courtroom and I would not be the one on trial. Now I need to tell you about the night before the hearing, because what I found in that house that evening, in a desk drawer I had opened 100 times before, is something that completely changed how I was going to walk into that room the next morning. And what Donna sent me at 11 p.m. that same night, right before I finally fell asleep for the first time in weeks, was the last mistake she ever made with me. Keep watching. The night before the hearing I drove to Clover Ridge. I did not need to pick up anything. Everything was already in the folders. I just needed to be in that house one more time. The house was quiet. I walked through each room slowly. Kitchen, where Margaret had taught me to make cornbread from scratch. Living room, where we had watched game shows every single weeknight without exception. Hallway closet, where the filing cabinet sat half empty now, its contents redistributed into legal folders and evidence binders. I sat on the couch and looked at the framed photo on the side table. Margaret at 60, standing in the garden, squinting into the summer sun, holding a pair of pruning shears. She looked annoyed and magnificent at the same time. Then I opened the desk drawer. Pens. Rubber bands. A magnifying glass Margaret used for reading fine print. And at the very bottom, a slip of paper yellowed at the edges, in Margaret's handwriting. Nora, everything in this house is yours. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. It was not a will. It was not a legal document. It was just a note. Maybe she had written it on a random Tuesday and forgotten about it. Maybe she had meant for me to find it eventually. Either way, those words hit me in a place I did not know was still that soft. I folded the note and put it in my jacket pocket. At 11 that night my phone buzzed. A text from Donna. It is not too late to settle this privately, Nora. Think about what your grandmother would have wanted. She had invoked Margaret's name. The woman she had abandoned along with me 21 years ago. The woman who had raised me in her absence. The woman who had never sent that $5,000 and never regretted not sending it. That was the last line Donna should have crossed. I set my alarm for 6 in the morning. Turned off the lights. And for the first time in weeks I slept without dreaming once. The courtroom was smaller than I had expected. No marble. No grand gallery. Just a wood-paneled room on the 3rd floor of the county courthouse with fluorescent lights, a dozen rows of hard-backed benches, and a judge's bench where Judge Patricia Hale sat high and perfectly still, reading glasses perched on her nose. Donna sat at the petitioner's table on the left. She was wearing a simple black dress and no jewelry except a thin gold chain. Her eyes were already red when I walked in. A tissue was folded precisely in her left hand. She looked like a woman carved entirely from grief. Richard sat beside her, briefcase open, legal pad covered in notes, nodding at the judge's clerk like he did this every single week. Behind them in the gallery, for people I half recognized, distant relatives and people from Donna's world, sat in a small cluster watching me with that particular mix of concern and judgment that told me they had already heard the story. Donna's version. Sophia sat at the end of the second row, hands clasped, looking straight ahead. I walked in with Lawrence. I was wearing a white button-down shirt and dark slacks. My hair pulled back. I carried nothing except a water bottle. Lawrence carried the folders. The hearing opened. Richard stood first. He spoke in the smooth practiced cadence of someone who sells calm for a living. Your Honor, my client Donna Marsh is a devoted mother seeking to protect her adult daughter from financial decisions she is not equipped to make. In the wake of a devastating loss, Nora Cassidy has exhibited patterns of instability that put her assets and her well-being at significant risk. He presented the petition. He presented Dr. Poole's evaluation. He used the word love 3 times in 2 minutes. Then Judge Hale turned to me. Ms. Cassidy, you may respond. Every eye in the room shifted. Before Lawrence could begin, Richard called his first witness. The petitioner calls Sophia Marsh. Sophia walked to the witness chair like she was walking to a dentist appointment. Stiff. Rehearsed. Avoiding my eyes. Richard guided her through it gently. Can you describe your interactions with your sister? I reached out because I wanted to connect, Sophia said, looking at the judge and not at me. We met for coffee, but she was suspicious, hostile. She kept asking why I was there like I had some kind of agenda. That was not what happened at all. Did she say anything that concerned you about her mental state? Richard asked. Sophia dabbed her eye with one finger. She said she did not trust anyone. That she felt like people were watching her. She seemed paranoid. It broke my heart. She continued, voice cracking with exact precision. I just wanted a sister, but she treated me like an enemy. Richard nodded solemnly. No further questions. Judge Hale looked at Lawrence. Cross-examination. Lawrence shook his head once. Not at this time, Your Honor. We will address this testimony in our response. I looked at him, pulse spiking. He wrote one word on his legal pad and tilted it toward me. Wait. In the gallery, Donna's supporters murmured quietly. One woman shook her head in my direction. Another patted Donna's shoulder from behind. Sophia returned to her seat. She glanced at Donna. Donna gave her a small approving nod, the kind a director gives an actress who has just hit every single mark. I sat perfectly still. Hands flat on the table. Breathing even. Lawrence had not challenged Sophia. He had let every word stand. And I was beginning to understand exactly why. He was not building a defense. He was building something else entirely. Donna took the stand next. She dabbed her eyes before she even opened her mouth. I know I was not there for Nora when she was young, she began, voice thin and carefully controlled. And I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. She told the court she had left because of circumstances she could not control. She implied that Grandma Margaret had blocked her from seeing me. My mother kept Nora from me, she said, looking at Judge Hale with wet unblinking eyes. I wrote letters. I tried to call. She would not allow it. Margaret Cassidy was not in that room. And Donna knew that perfectly well. She described me as overwhelmed and struggling. She said I had been making erratic financial choices since Margaret's death. She said a guardianship was not about control. It was about stepping in before something terrible happened. Richard stood. The psychiatric evaluation confirms these concerns, Your Honor. Judge Hale flipped through the paperwork. The courtroom was dead quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the scratch of the clerk's pen. In the gallery, heads were nodding. Donna's people were buying every single word. I looked at my hands, flat on the table. Still. Judge Hale set down the file and turned to Lawrence. Counselor, your response. This was it. Lawrence stood slowly. He buttoned his jacket. He placed one hand on the stack of folders in front of him. He did not rush. He did not raise his voice. Your Honor, he said, I would like to present evidence that this petition is not only unfounded, but is part of an ongoing criminal scheme against my client. The nodding in the gallery stopped. Richard's pen froze mid-note. And Donna, for the first time since I had seen her again, stopped crying entirely. Lawrence did not need to raise his voice. He never did. Before addressing the substance of the guardianship petition, he said, I ask the court's permission to present contextual evidence regarding the petitioner's credibility and the legitimacy of the documents before you. Judge Hale nodded. Proceed. Lawrence opened the first folder. Your Honor, this is a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation of Ms. Nora Cassidy, conducted last month by Dr. Sarah Wentworth, a board-certified psychiatrist with an active license in this state. He handed the document to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. Dr. Wentworth found no cognitive impairment, no emotional instability, and no diminished capacity of any kind. Ms. Cassidy is in every measurable sense fully competent. He opened the second folder. These are Ms. Cassidy's tax returns, employment records, and payment history spanning 6 years. On-time rent. A mortgage in good standing. Consistent performance evaluations. This is not a woman who cannot manage her own affairs. Judge Hale read silently. The courtroom was completely still. Then Lawrence opened the third folder. He did not look at Donna. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, the evaluation submitted by the petitioner was signed by Dr. Raymond Poole. I would like to enter into the record that Dr. Poole's medical license was revoked 2 years ago by the State Board of Medicine for providing fabricated evaluations in legal proceedings. The clerk's typing stopped. Judge Hale removed her glasses. Richard shifted in his chair. Mr. Marsh, the judge said, eyes on Richard. Were you aware that Dr. Poole's license had been revoked? Richard cleared his throat. I was not involved in selecting the evaluator, Your Honor. Lawrence closed the folder. But that is only the beginning, Your Honor. He reached for the fourth folder, and I watched the color leave Richard's face entirely. What happened next in that courtroom, the moment Lawrence spread that timeline across the clerk's desk and walked the judge through every single account number, every billing address, every year, the moment Donna's entire performance fell apart completely and a voice from the gallery said the words that nobody saw coming, that is something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Stay right there. We are almost at the end. Lawrence spread the timeline across the clerk's desk. 11 pages. Color-coded. Annotated with dates, addresses, and account numbers. Your Honor, over the past 6 weeks my client discovered that 11 credit cards and 3 personal loans were opened in her name using her social security number without her knowledge or consent. The total fraudulent debt exceeds $87,000. He walked the judge through it. Card by card. Year by year. The first account was opened when Ms. Cassidy was 14 years old. The most recent was opened 6 months ago. Every billing address traces to a residence occupied by the petitioner, Donna Marsh, or her husband, Gregory Marsh. He paused and let the room absorb it. My client has filed an identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission. She has filed a report with local law enforcement. These are the official credit bureau confirmations verifying the fraudulent accounts. He placed each document in front of the judge like laying cards face up on a table. The woman who claims my client cannot manage her finances, Lawrence said, has been illegally managing them without permission for over a decade. I heard a sharp intake of breath from the gallery. One of Donna's relatives leaned forward, mouth open. Donna sat completely frozen at the petitioner's table. The tissue was still in her hand, but she was not using it anymore. Then Lawrence pulled out one more page. This credit card, Your Honor, was opened 3 weeks after the death of Ms. Cassidy's grandmother, Margaret Cassidy. Judge Hale looked up from the document. She looked at Donna. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock on the wall. 3 weeks, Lawrence repeated. The flowers on the grave were still fresh. Judge Hale turned to Donna. Ms. Marsh, you may respond to these allegations. Donna's composure cracked. Not slowly. All at once, like ice breaking under weight. I do not know anything about this, she said. Her voice had completely lost its rehearsed tremble. Now it was just raw. Someone must have stolen her information. It was not me. Lawrence reached into the folder without a word. He pulled out 2 documents and held them side by side. Your Honor, this is a letter written by Donna Marsh to her mother, Margaret Cassidy, approximately 8 years ago, requesting $5,000. He set it down on the clerk's desk. And this is the signature on the application for the fraudulent Visa card. He placed them next to each other. The handwriting is consistent. I would respectfully request the court order a formal analysis if there is any doubt. Richard stood. Objection. Relevance. Judge Hale did not even look at him. Overruled. Sit down, Mr. Marsh. Donna turned in her chair. Not toward the judge. Toward me. Her face was a mess of mascara and fury. I am your mother, she said loudly. Everything I did because I had no choice. The bailiff took a step forward. The gallery went rigid. You owe me, Nora. I gave you life. I looked at her across the courtroom. My voice was level. Clear. Not loud. You gave me life, I said. Then you left it. Then you tried to take it over. Judge Hale's gavel cracked once. Order. Ms. Marsh, you will compose yourself or you will be removed. Donna slumped back into her chair. In the second row, Sophia stared at her lap. Her hands were shaking. The woman who had been patting Donna's shoulder earlier had quietly pulled her hand away. Lawrence was not finished. Your Honor, I have one final matter. He opened the last section of his file. During our investigation, we obtained the petitioner's financial records via subpoena. Within those records, we found that Gregory Marsh, the petitioner's husband and legal representative in this very proceeding, co-signed on 2 of the loans taken out using Ms. Cassidy's stolen Social Security number. The courtroom went completely still. The clerk stopped typing. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to go quiet for a moment. Judge Hale leaned forward. Mr. Marsh, is this accurate? Richard's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. He looked like a man who had just realized the floor beneath him had completely disappeared. Your Honor, those loans where he stopped. Started over. I would like to request a recess. Denied. Judge Hale's voice was absolutely flat. You are representing the petitioner in a guardianship case while being potentially complicit in identity fraud against the respondent. The court takes that very seriously. She turned to the bailiff. Note this for referral to the State Bar for investigation. Richard sat down. He did not touch his legal pad again. And then something happened that nobody in that room had expected. Sophia stood up in the gallery. Her voice was small, but it was steady. I did not know about any of this. The entire room turned. Donna's head snapped toward her daughter. Mom told me Nora was mentally ill, Sophia said. She told me what to say. She coached me for 2 days. I thought I was helping. She looked at me directly. Her eyes were red, but not from performance. From the thing that happens when reality rearranges itself right in front of you all at once. I am sorry, Nora. I did not know. Donna grabbed Sophia's arm. Sit down right now. Sophia pulled her arm free. The bailiff stepped between them. Judge Hale removed her glasses. She set them on the bench, folded her hands, and looked at the room for a long quiet moment before she spoke. This court has heard testimony, reviewed the petition, and examined the evidence submitted by both parties. She turned to Donna. Ms. Marsh, the petition for guardianship over Nora Cassidy is denied in its entirety. The respondent has demonstrated full cognitive, emotional, and financial capacity. The evaluation submitted in support of your petition was signed by a physician whose license was revoked, rendering it entirely inadmissible. And the testimony of your witness has been recanted by the witness herself. Donna did not move. The tissue was wadded in her fist. Furthermore, Judge Hale continued, the evidence of identity theft presented by the respondent is deeply concerning to this court. I am referring the full record, credit reports, account documentation, and investigative findings to the county prosecutor's office for criminal review. She looked at Richard. Mr. Marsh, your potential involvement in the fraudulent accounts will be referred to the State Bar. I strongly suggest you retain separate counsel immediately. Richard stared at the table. Finally, the judge said, I am issuing a temporary restraining order. Donna Marsh, Gregory Marsh, and Sophia Marsh are prohibited from contacting, visiting, or communicating with Nora Cassidy by any means. This order is effective immediately. The gavel fell. The sound echoed in that small room like a period at the end of a very long sentence. The bailiff escorted Donna to the door. She turned once and looked at me. And said quietly, almost to herself, "She is my daughter." The door closed behind her. Lawrence put his hand on my shoulder. "It is over, Nora." I reached into my jacket pocket and felt the folded note. Margaret's handwriting still there. I did not cry. I just breathed. Tell me in the comments what you would have done in my shoes. And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. 2 weeks after the hearing, the dominoes started falling. The county prosecutor reviewed the referral and opened a formal investigation. Within a month, Donna Marsh was charged under federal identity theft statutes. 11 counts of fraudulent use of a social security number. 3 counts of credit fraud. The charges carried a combined potential sentence of 5 to 15 years. Richard's situation unraveled separately but just as thoroughly. The state bar suspended his license pending investigation. 3 days later, a former client filed an additional ethics complaint. Apparently Richard's problems had not started with my case. At the Clover Ridge house, I changed all the locks, installed a deadbolt, and set up a security camera at the front door. Not because I was scared. Because I was done leaving doors open. My credit began the slow process of recovery. With the FTC report and the court referral on file, the credit bureaus started removing the fraudulent accounts one by one. Priya checked in every week with updates. 2 more dropped off. Score at 580. Then the relatives, the ones who had called me ungrateful, who had sent Bible verses about honoring your mother, started reaching out. Cousin Paula left a voicemail. "Nora, honey, I had no idea. I am so sorry. I listened to it once. I did not call back." There was one more thing. During the prosecutor's review of Donna's financial activity, they discovered 2 additional credit cards opened in my name. Both applied for the week before the hearing. Cash advances. Maximum limits. She had not just been fighting for guardianship. She had been running a backup plan, draining what she could before the window closed completely. And I stared at the notification from the credit bureau and thought she never stopped. Not for 21 years. Not even when she was sitting in that courtroom weeping about how much she loved me. 6 months later, my credit score was 720. It had taken dozens of phone calls, 3 rounds of disputes, and a stack of FTC paperwork thick enough to use as a doorstop. But the fraudulent accounts were gone. All of them. My name was clean again. Donna pleaded guilty. 3 years in federal prison. Restitution ordered. $87,000. Her attorney had negotiated the plea to avoid trial. I was told she cried in the courtroom when the sentence was read. I was not there. I did not need to be. Richard Marsh was permanently disbarred. Last I heard, he was selling real estate in another state without a law license. Sophia sent a written apology through her attorney. It was 2 pages long. I read it. It sounded genuine. I did not respond. Maybe one day. Not yet. I moved into the Clover Ridge house full-time and rented out my old apartment. The mortgage payments cover themselves now. The garden is halfway back to what Margaret had kept it, and I replaced the porch railing myself. Priya helped. She held the boards while I drilled. We only argued twice about whether it was level. And she was wrong both times, but I let her think she was right once. At work, Tom pulled me aside on my first day back. "I owe you an apology," he said. I should have asked what was going on before suggesting time off. I told him it was fine and I meant it. People make assumptions. The ones who correct them are the ones worth keeping around. I froze my credit permanently. Social security number locked. Every account monitored. Nobody opens anything in my name without my explicit authorization. The door is closed. I closed it. It is a Sunday in September and I am sitting on the porch at Clover Ridge. The air smells like cut grass and the first edge of autumn. There is a glass of iced tea on the railing and a book in my lap that I have not opened. Sometimes the porch is enough all by itself. I reach into the small drawer of the side table, the one Margaret kept her reading glasses in, and pull out the slip of paper I found the night before the hearing. I have read it 100 times by now, but I unfold it again anyway. Nora, everything in this house is yours. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. I used to think she was talking about the house itself. The walls, the roof, the filing cabinet full of records. But I do not think that is what she meant at all. She meant the life inside it. The mornings I spent doing homework at the kitchen table. The evenings we sat in these same chairs and listened to the crickets. The version of me she had built piece by piece out of patience and rules and Thursday pot roast. That is what is mine. Not the wood and the plaster. The foundation she poured into me. I take the note to the living room. I slide it into a small frame and hang it on the wall next to Margaret's photo, the one with the pruning shears. They look exactly right together. My mother gave me a name. My grandmother gave me a life. And when someone tried to take both, I chose to keep what mattered. If you take anything at all from my story, let it be this. The people who raised you do not always share your blood. But the ones who tried to break you do not get to share your life. When someone uses the word love to justify taking your money or controlling your decisions, that is not love. That is leverage. And you do not owe anyone your freedom just because you share their DNA. Lawrence called me on a Tuesday evening a few weeks after the hearing. His voice had the settled quality of a man who has finally checked something off a very long list. I have some news, he said. The judge's referral led to a review of how guardianship petitions are processed in our county. They are updating the verification protocol. Evaluating physicians' credentials will now be mandatory before any guardianship hearing can proceed. I leaned against the kitchen door frame. Because of my case. Because of your case. It will not fix everything, but it will make it much harder for someone to pull what Donna pulled. I looked across the living room at the framed photo of Margaret on the side table. The one with the pruning shears. She would be glad to hear that, I said. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, Ruth, Margaret, she would be proud of you, Nora. I know that for certain. I felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness. Not relief. Something between the two. Like a door closing gently and completely behind me. After we hung up, I stood in the hallway for a while. The filing cabinet was empty now, relocated to storage. The hallway looked bigger without it. I thought about Margaret's 2 rules. Work hard. And never depend on anyone who has already shown you they will leave. She had been talking about Donna when she said that. I know that now. She had probably always known this day would come. Maybe not the exact details, but the shape of it. A mother who left. A daughter who stayed. And a fight that was always going to arrive eventually. She had made sure I had the tools. She had made sure Lawrence was standing by. That is not luck. That is love. The kind that plans ahead.